three quick cases from my 25 years of an in-depth clinical hypnotherapy practice. And I want to share these with you so that you can see what's common among them and perhaps tell me if this applies to you as well. The first case was a man who came to see me who had been a multimillionaire. He accumulated his wealth over a period of 25 years and suddenly makes a business decision that results in losing absolutely everything within a span of 6 months. Now, hold on to that. We're going to come back to this man. The second is a woman who had been a smoker her whole life and starts feeling like short of breath and stuff like this, and she wants to quit smoking. She quits smoking. We do one session. She quits smoking. About 6 months go by. She calls me back and says, I was at a beach and I started smoking again. What's going on? I'm going to tell you more about her as well. And the third was a man who comes to see me. He was a middle-aged man, late 40s, absolutely tormented by the fact that he had two families, meaning he had two women with two families, and not only the expenses of maintaining two households, but also the aggravation of the conflict, and this was a long-term situation, I guess, and he was tormented by this situation, and he couldn't understand why he found himself in that situation and unable to extricate himself from something that was so detrimental to his well-being. So these three cases that I tell you and all the other 12,000 people that I have seen over the years have one thing in common. Everybody has been betrayed, hurt. In some way, we have been violated at some time in our lives. And when we are hurt and betrayed, the natural response is to cringe and close up, to protect ourselves from further damage. This is no different from our involuntary response to touching a hot plate. To touch a hot plate and immediately move your hand out to prevent tissue damage. Now, that involuntary response is not even mediated by the brain. In other words, there's no thought involved. We all do that instinctively, involuntarily. Later on, you realize, oh yeah, I touched a hot plate and I moved my hand. But initially, the initial response is completely involuntary. So involuntarily or unconsciously, we all cringe and close. And the question is, what closes when we're hurt and violated? And what are the consequences of this closure? Well, what closes is the heart. And we develop an attitude of strength from a position of revenge. I'll show you. We develop an attitude of, I'm going to succeed to show you who I am, that kind of thing. Now, if you listen to the gurus on the internet, they all talk about how they were motivated to succeed because something really bad happened to them in childhood, or my parents abandoned me, or whatever. Each one of them has their story, and they're encouraged by older gurus to come up the ranks by telling their stories. I was raped, I was this, I was that. When everybody talks about what really bad thing happened to them that motivated them to succeed. And in sales training, you always have this idea of finding the pain point. Now, you could say that the pain point is really a need that the client has. But I remember once I was partnering up years ago with another therapist. We were doing a radio program back when radio was a big deal. We were doing this radio program and we were partners. And I asked her one day, we were at my office, and I asked her, okay, how do you sell your services? I'm curious, how do you work? And she told me, well, it's easy. A client comes in, they're not paying me for the first session. I ask them to tell me what's wrong, what their problem is, and then I keep on talking about the problem until they start crying. And once they cry, I know I got them. So I didn't want to partner with her anymore. I didn't work with her anymore because I thought that there was a little bit of, emotional manipulation there to sell the service. But the point I'm making to you is that she made a ton of money doing this, and it sort of works, right? Because we have this pain inside that is all bottled up, and then we use that oftentimes as a source of strength and motivation to succeed. I'm here to tell you that whenever we do that, whatever we build out of pain is short-lived. Just like a sand castle on the beach, eventually the tide moves in and the sand castle is washed out. And this is why people feel that they're stuck in a rut, because they work, they do this, they build a family, they do whatever they do, but everything is washed out and they have to start from scratch all over again. The alternative to all of this is to heal the heart, is to actually open your heart. Now, this is the mystical, is almost like a mystical thing, and people have talked about this for thousands of years. They talk about opening the chakras, and there's a lot that goes into it, but it's actually simpler than it sounds. And if you find yourself in this situation where you're ready to open your heart up and develop that innocence that you had as a child, and therefore change your life, then we can talk. Click on the link below, and I'm going to ask you for your name and email, only so that I can send you some free videos so that we can begin this process of opening your heart.